Tomorrow the inauguration takes place, so will Orania be watching? When the country sings the national anthem, are people in Orania singing along with us?
Definitely with some reservation, because up until now, South Africa has expressed itself in a very centralistic way, in a way that has really excluded our people from opportunities, from business, from this whole concept of transformation is a concept of excluding us. So you couldn't expect the kind of enthusiasm that one likes to see flaming up now and then at a meeting point like tomorrow. So we are not in resistance against that, but enthusiasm that really lacks for very good reasons.
So Carel Boshoff here in this video is explaining and expressing some of the bitterness which people of Orania, kind of like feel or have, or what they really feel about South Africa, in expressing Oranians' interpretation of South Africa's national anthem, and their general feelings for South Africa in any way, and why they really push for sort of like an independence or a federated status within the state of South Africa, thereby disenfranchising South Africa from the pursuit of or the hegemony of a unitary state in the independent state of South Africa. Let's listen to what he has to say about Oranians' interpretation of South Africa's national anthem and probably South Africa's national flag. And I'll be back for some analysis on, this whole pursuit by Orania for independence.
Elections took place in Orania. 376 votes going to the Freedom Front plus 59 to the Democratic Alliance, 34 to Hope for SA. Surprisingly, 1 vote in Orania going to the EFF. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, let me tell you this. When I was a member of the provincial legislature, something of the same kind happened. And the ANC said, Carel, you are in trouble because there were 4 votes for the ANC. And my answer was, colleagues, you are in trouble because there were 8 party representatives of the ANC at the election point. Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of things that happen. It may be or it may not be an inhabitant of Orania. There's a total freedom of choice for people to express themselves. Maybe somebody tried to make a definite point. Maybe it was not even a person from Orania itself. But we welcome that kind of diversity.
Okay, and sorry, I need to squeeze a few more in here. Tomorrow the inauguration takes place, so will Orania be watching? When the country sings the national anthem, are people in Orania singing along with us?
I need to say with some reservation, definitely with some reservation, because up until now, South Africa has expressed itself in a very centralistic way, in a way that has really excluded our people from opportunities, from business, from this whole concept of transformation is a concept of excluding us. So you couldn't expect the kind of enthusiasm that one likes to see flaming up now and then at a meeting point like tomorrow. So we are not in resistance against that, but enthusiasm that really lacks for very good reasons within our community.
But within our national anthem, there's the Sotho part, the Zulu part, the Afrikaans part, the English part, and you can answer whether or not you'll just, in Orania, then just singing along to only one section of that national anthem tomorrow, as we elect leaders that were voted for, where elections took place even in Orania. But as you answer that, Zamani Soul, you're in support of Zamani Soul leading the Northern Cape.
We have had a long-standing relationship with Zamani, which does not mean that either he agrees with our policies or we with his, but we have a long and constructive relationship with him. We support his position in the Northern Cape, especially as that leads up to the normalization of Orania within the province as well as in the country.
Okay, and that last one, and this will be where I close it. Nkosi sigeleli Africa, God bless Africa. That's the first line of our national anthem. Then the Afrikaans part starts with 80 Bloof and also Yemo. Where do you start singing the national anthem?
Personally, when I sing it, I started from the start to the end, and we do pray to God to save and to bless Africa, because we are part of it. We are taking part of it, and we want to see the best Africa and the best South Africa, which would be a community of communities and not just a government with so many individuals under it.
All right.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. What do you guys think? It's really interesting how this takes me back to the research I made on, the Biafran pursuit of independence from the state of Nigeria at the time. The Biafrans, if you do not know, it was kind of like the made up of the Igbos, the majority of the Igbos who are located in eastern part of Nigeria today. And in 1967, there was a bloody civil war between the Biafran state, or what would have been called the Biafran nationalists against the independent state of Nigeria. And there was this push for independence by the Biafrans at the time. They had created their own currency, they had created their own, power stations and all that, and they sought to secede from South Africa, but from Nigeria. They sought to secede from Nigeria, but unfortunately Nigeria came after 3 years of fighting from 1967 to 1970. They were rejoined into the Nigerian state, and sort of like in a really violent war. But it also, the issue with the national anthem now in South Africa also proves the reason I brought up the Biafra issue was the fact that the Biafrans as well had their own national anthem that was created in the Nordics, actually where I'm based, I think there was an orchestra group in Finland that actually composed the rhythm for the Biafran national anthem. And it just shows how this world seems to be interconnected. I don't know what connects Finland with Biafra at the time, but I think the Nordics here, the people of the Nordics in this region actually had a heartfelt, connection to the struggles of the black Biafran nationalists at the time, who were fighting for independence amidst the starvation. And media sources carried the starvation pictures of famished children suffering from all forms of disease and hunger during the war, and lots of support from Sweden, from Finland for the Biafrans. And so that event actually just makes me this reaction of Carel Boshoff and his description of the Oranians' interpretation of the national anthem in South Africa just takes me back to that event in history. But anyway, in this video, I thought to analyze from Eyewitness News more updates on, this whole issue with the ANC's deal with the Freedom Front Plus party to formally recognize Orania as a federated independent state in South Africa. So from the Eyewitness News, the report argues that the ANC and FF Plus deal to formally recognize Orania is a defining moment. So that's the title of this news report. It argues that the provincial FF Plus has agreed to back the ANC's candidate for premier, Zamani Sol, in exchange for the recognition of Orania's right to self-determine. So we see that this is pure politics, right? So Zamani Paul, now is getting clearer to me, that Zamani Paul is the ANC's candidate for premier of the Northern Cape. Probably this I think this is a region that hasn't been governed by the ANC for a long time, or probably it has been governed by the ANC. But the candidature of Zamani Sol now is coming in exchange for the recognition of Orania, especially Orania's right to self-determine. So we see politics playing out there. The report says that Northern Cape settlement for white Afrikaners, Orania, said the deal between the African National Congress, ANC, and the Freedom Front Plus to formally recognize it represents a defining moment for the community. That's Orania. It says that the Provincial Freedom Front Plus party agreed to back ANC's candidate for premier, Zamani Sol, in exchange for the recognition of Orania's right to self-determine. Now, Northern Cape was one of the 3 hung provinces that failed to produce an outright winner at the recent polls. It says that Orania is a constituency of the Freedom Front Plus, with over 65% of residents having voted for the Freedom Front Plus in the recent elections. Now, it says that the settlement's CEO, Just Strudom, said that the people and leadership of Orania are excited about the arrangement with the provincial government. Now, Strudom speaking, he says that the past 33 years of our work will get formal recognition. This, of course, stems from a long time ago from the Declaration of Africana Self-Sufficiency, as well as Article 235 of the Constitution, where the right to cultural self-sufficiency is defined. And also the Orania's Representative Council in the year 2000, when Orania got its own local government, and that it is another marker on that journey. And this is another marker on that journey, and it's an important one because it is government to government recognition. The report further goes on to say that the ANC in the Northern Cape said it has agreed to a working relationship with the Freedom Front Plus. However, it is still consulting over what the recognition of Orania would entail. The party said that Sol Zamani would announce his cabinet next week, that's tomorrow, Tuesday, with the FF Plus to chair the portfolio of corporate governance, human settlements, and traditional affairs. So this is where, the negotiations for Orania's independence is at the moment. So it stems from Zamani receiving, I would imagine receiving the votes from the Freedom Front Plus's constituents, which had 65% of the vote in the Northern Cape, supporting the ANC, leadership in that region, with Zamani Sol as premier, in agreement for Orania's independence. And it's really interesting how politics comes to play here. And also the fact that the ANC, I don't know how this whole thing goes with the GNU, but the ANC, without an opposition at the moment to this, seems to be able to take hegemony in these negotiations and dish out, um, in a way, it's really tricky now how to interpret this, because then during the period when there was the ANC and the opposition, I believe John Steenhuisen or the opposition naturally would have actually rebutted such pursuits by the ANC, or asked for deliberation within the parliament and all that. But now with the negotiations going on for the GNU, this is kind of like now a sort of like a give me, I give you kind of relationship, where the FF Plus agrees to join the GNU on the basis of a negotiation for the independence of Orania, and also on the basis of the fact that it will support Zamani Sol's premiership in the Northern Cape in exchange for this. And I really don't know how Fikile Mbalula, the ANC, Secretary General, and also President Cyril Ramaphosa will go along with these negotiations without the voice from an opposition, and it's really tricky. We'll keep watching and really understanding and see how that whole thing goes. I've heard that President Cyril Ramaphosa is yet to make an announcement, but he will be making an announcement soon as regards, what the ANC's position on Orania's independence would detail. There might probably be some form of recognition, but not full independence, which would be one step in the bag towards full independence of Orania. But we really don't know also how the opposition, in terms of the EFF and the MK, would react to this, and how that whole thing plays out. But it's really interesting with the formation of the GNU and how these parties seem to be negotiating for the voices and the needs of its constituencies and its representatives of its bases, and how that whole thing plays. Either we wonder if that whole entity would represent a strength or a weakness for the GNU. Is this now going to be a government that is unable to, or impotent in that regard, to say no to certain issues that had actually been that had actually had a long-standing no, but now because of the fact that now we've entered an era of a GNU, which is more like as one researcher argues, is a grand coalition. Negotiations, to join that government seem to be able now to repeal what might have been a historical no as regards certain policies or certain requirements or certain demands by different parties, that actually represent their constituencies in South Africa, to now pull off because they are part of the GNU. It's a really tricky kind of government, really tricky kind of governance. It's new. We're still studying it. We don't really understand it yet. We've been used to much more this politics between a dominant party and opposition, so kind of like opposition politics. But with the GNU at the moment, it's really still tricky and still blurred lines, characterize its essence, and it's really still difficult to interpret how it works. But we'll keep studying and understanding how this whole coalition government works with South Africa. South Africa might spearhead, this whole move for coalition democracy, so to speak, in Africa. Although we've had a little experience with that with Kenya, with Raila Odinga's and Ruto's election campaigns at the time. But South Africa seems to be much more diverse politically in terms of political parties, and it will be really interesting to study how this whole government of national unity or coalition democracy, as I like to call it, plays out. But anyway, it's been quite a lot of information in this video. What do you guys think about this whole issue with Orania's reflection on South Africa and Orania's interpretation of South Africa's national anthem, South Africa's national flag, South Africa in itself, and its pursuit for independence? Share your thoughts in the comments.